It was a humid summer afternoon in the small town of Brookfield, where the air was thick with a quiet kind of tension. Brookfield was picturesque on the surface, with quaint shops, cozy diners, and historic landmarks. But for the few black families in town, it wasn't always welcoming. In fact, they often felt unwelcome in certain parts of town, a feeling that was hard to shake. For the Williams family, Mark, his wife Vanessa, and their two kids, Mia and Jaden, it was another weekend outing. They had heard about a new restaurant, the Magnolia House, famous for its Southern-style cooking. It had rave reviews online and a cozy, family-friendly ambience. Excited, they made plans for lunch there after church. As they arrived, Mark and Vanessa shared a glance. The restaurant was charming, with white wicker chairs on a front porch decorated with potted plants and a sign that read, "Good food, good company." But as they walked in, Vanessa noticed something strange. Patrons stopped talking, turning to stare. A chill went through her, but she kept a brave smile for her kids. They walked up to the hostess stand, where a young woman greeted them with an overly polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. "How can I help you?" she asked, her tone formal and stiff. Mark responded with a warm smile. "Table for four, please." The hostess hesitated, glancing over at a manager across the room. The manager, an older man with a stern face, nodded almost imperceptibly, and the hostess quickly regained her composure. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice more strained now. "We're fully booked for the afternoon. There's a wait time of over 2 hours?" Mark's smile faltered. He looked around the restaurant and could clearly see there were several empty tables. "We don't mind waiting," he replied calmly. "Could we just put our names down?" The hostess opened her mouth, but no words came out. She looked back at the manager, who shook his head. The message was clear. "I'm sorry," she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. "We can't accommodate you today." Vanessa felt a flash of anger, but managed to keep her voice steady. "Are you saying you can't serve us because we're black?" The hostess looked down, visibly uncomfortable, while the manager finally stepped forward. "It's not about that, ma'am," he said in a cold, dismissive tone. "We reserve the right to serve whom we please. Now I'm going to have to ask you to leave." A hush fell over the dining area. Patrons looked away, pretending not to notice the tension. But one woman, an older white woman with kind eyes, watched the exchange, her mouth drawn into a tight line. She rose from her table and walked over to the Williams family. "This isn't right," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "These people came in here to enjoy a meal just like the rest of us. They deserve respect." The manager shot her a glare. "Ma'am, with all due respect, this is a private business?" "Yes," the woman replied, her voice unwavering. "But that doesn't give you the right to treat people this way." Mark gently pulled his kids closer, murmuring to Vanessa that it was time to leave. He didn't want a scene, not in front of Mia and Jaden, who were clinging to their parents, wide-eyed and confused. As they stepped outside, Vanessa took a deep breath, fighting back tears. "I'm so sorry, kids," she said, her voice shaky. "This wasn't supposed to happen." Little Jaden, barely 8, looked up and asked, "Mom, why don't they like us?" Mark placed a comforting hand on his son's shoulder. "Sometimes people don't understand that everyone should be treated the same, no matter what they look like. But that doesn't mean they're right." Determined not to let the incident ruin their day, they found another small restaurant across town. Though it wasn't quite the same ambiance, the staff welcomed them warmly, and they had a delicious meal. But the incident weighed on Mark and Vanessa, and that night they couldn't let it go. The next day, Vanessa decided to share her experience on social media, detailing what had happened. Within hours, the post went viral, sparking outrage from people both in and outside Brookfield. People shared similar stories of discrimination and disrespect, of moments where they were treated as less than because of their skin color. A wave of solidarity swelled up, and soon the hashtag #StandWithWilliams was trending online. Local news outlets picked up the story, and reporters gathered outside the Magnolia House. When asked for comment, the manager claimed it was all a misunderstanding, stating that the family had simply arrived without a reservation. But people weren't convinced. Then something unexpected happened. A group of local activists and allies organized a peaceful sit-in at the Magnolia House. Dozens of people, black and white, filed into the restaurant, each one asking for a table and refusing to leave when denied. Outside, more people gathered with signs, chanting for equality and justice. The restaurant quickly became the center of attention, and the manager, overwhelmed by the backlash, finally closed its doors temporarily. But the movement didn't stop there. Brookfield's Black community, joined by allies from surrounding areas, organized rallies, held meetings, and pushed for changes in town policies. They demanded that businesses be held accountable for discrimination and insisted on more diversity training for local establishments. Mark and Vanessa were stunned by the support they received. They hadn't expected their experience to lead to such a powerful movement, but they were grateful. They took every opportunity to speak out, educating others on the impact of discrimination and the importance of treating everyone with dignity and respect. Weeks later, the town council held a meeting to address the complaints of discrimination that had emerged. For the first time, people of all backgrounds were given a platform to share their stories and call for change. Policies were drafted to promote inclusivity, and business owners were required to attend training on anti-discrimination practices. But the most surprising turn of events happened a month later. The Magnolia House reopened under new management. The original manager had resigned under public pressure, and the new owner was none other than the older woman who had stood up for the Williams family that day. Her name was Eleanor, and she was a retired school teacher with a passion for equality. Eleanor personally invited the Williams family to dine at the Magnolia House, assuring them that the restaurant was now a safe, welcoming place for everyone. When they arrived, Eleanor greeted them warmly, treating them like honored guests. As they enjoyed their meal, they noticed that the restaurant had undergone a transformation. There were now paintings on the walls by local Black artists, and the menu included dishes inspired by African American cuisine, celebrating the rich diversity of the community. A portion of the profits was even dedicated to funding scholarships for underprivileged youth in Brookfield. Looking around, Vanessa felt a sense of hope. What had started as a painful experience had led to something beautiful: a stronger community, a greater awareness of justice, and a brighter future for her children. As they finished their meal, Eleanor stopped by their table. "Thank you," she said, her voice warm and sincere. "If it weren't for you, this place wouldn't have changed. You sparked something in this town that will continue for generations." Mark smiled, grateful for her words. "We didn't mean for any of this to happen, but if it helps make things better for our kids, then it was worth it." The Williams family left the Magnolia House that night, their hearts full of hope. They had turned a moment of discrimination into a force for change, proving that even in the face of adversity, unity and courage could pave the way for a brighter, more inclusive future.